Hello everyone. I want to make a short video this morning, or a video. I'm going to be in Psalms 46. I'm going to read about 3 or 4 verses in there. In the King James Version of the Bible, of course, it says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof. Selah. And then the 10th verse says, Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. I've read that before, and I'm thinking this morning of Paul's trip. And I've also made a video of that, the ship in the storm, so I'm not going to read that again today anyway. Paul, they were in that storm, and they ran the ship aground, and they all made it safe to land. Some on board, some on broken pieces of ship, and they all made it. We're in storms. It's kind of a ridiculous thought that we could drown in shallow water, especially after you've been out in the deep and survived. But you know, statistics say that most accidents happen 2 miles or less from home. I read about Nehemiah not too long ago, and the lesson in Nehemiah was don't be distracted. They fought with one hand and builded with the other. So I remember when I was a younger man. My good friend, Brother Jack Kelly, he received the Holy Ghost at Crown Point, and so we'd go up there every year. Sometimes 2 or 3 times a year. We'd go to Black Oak, Crown Point, and we would go to South Haven. And while we were up there, typically we spent one night with Brother Tachi McLean, and then we spent one night with Brother Rich Fleming at that time. And you know, coming back, I've explained this before, but let me say, I had a company car that only I could drive, and it seemed like that the closer we got to home, the sleepier I got. I wasn't too sleepy when we left Indiana, too sleepy in Kentucky, and not too bad in Tennessee. But when I started seeing signs of Alabama, I'd start getting very sleepy. And that's when things get the most difficult a lot of times, is right when you're almost to your destination. The toughest times in life it's not at the beginning of the struggle, because you're fresh there, but it's when you get closest to the shore, your destination, it becomes the most difficult. You're wore out and you're vulnerable. But you know, if we learn things in life and through the scriptures that should help us from drowning in shallow water and from them times when we're closest to the shore. One thing is, because we're in a storm, that don't mean that God's not there. And I think sometimes we think he's left the building. He's left because we're going through trouble. He's not with us, don't know what's going on, etc. But he does. There are all kinds of storms. There's health storms. I've had those recently, physical, financial, emotional storms. There's all kinds of storms. I'm not talking about the storms that produces water and lightning and thunder with the kind that, I'm talking about the kind that other people can't see in their life. Some people, because it's a secret storm, they think that you haven't been through anything. Because you're still smiling and holding it together and holding your head up, they just assume that you've just had a flower bed of ease. But I like a person that goes through the storms, and you never know that they've even encountered any. Has anybody that's listening to this ever went through a secret storm? You know, when you go through a physical storm, somebody can hand you an umbrella or a raft if you needed it or something, because they can see that you're in a storm and they're going through something, so they're trying to help you. But nobody knows that I'm going through that secret storm. people, when you get a promotion, they're jealous, but they don't know that you got more responsibility, and they just got to the point you can't even hardly rest at night because we're in the storm. When we're in the storm, we have a tendency, like Job did, to think, where is God? But he's the same place that he was when his son hung on the cross. He hasn't went anywhere. Job said, I looked for God. He was here a minute ago. I looked on my left and looked on my right. I looked straight ahead and behind, but I couldn't even find him. Where is God? Because if God was with us, then we wouldn't be in a storm. But that's not true. He could be with us. If I'm in a storm, I want him to be with me. We think that if God was really with us, everything would go smooth. How can God really be with us and we have cancer or other problems? How could God let my house burn down or me wreck my car? The reason we can't see God when it's a storm is, like the disciples, you can't see God in a storm. That's why you got to walk by faith and not by sight. If you want to see God do his best work, get in trouble, and I know none of us want that. I know you think God does his best work when you're rejoicing and everything's fine, but it's really when you're in trouble. I know that God visits your praise. He'll visit you then, but he stays when you're in trouble. God promised us he'd be with us in the storm. Let me tell you something about God's promises. Anytime God promises you something, just get ready for trouble. You only promise when you know something will come and bring it out. It's like writing somebody a check. You're promising them that the money is there. You never promise the obvious. They can't see the money, but you wrote a check and you're promising it it's there. I know I've got at least one pastor in this storm of mine because God is with me. Are you steering your life based upon what you see or upon what you believe? That makes a difference too. We just need to settle this right off the top, right from the beginning, determine our end from the beginning. Before the first lightning flash, we're coming out of this. I don't have the details. I don't know how, but I'm coming out of this. I may have to crawl. I may have to wait. I may have to suffer and hold my peace when everything is said and done to come out of this. How do you know you're coming out? Because I know that he is with me, and he is with me in the storm. I know that God is with me, and I know the storm may blow away a lot of things from me, but it can't blow him away from me. So let's just settle on it that God is with us in the storm. If you're fighting me, storm, you're fighting God because he's with me in the storm. It's been proven statistically that older people live longer in the house if there's anything living in the house, even if that thing doesn't like you. If you got somebody to debate with, to argue with, to roll your eyes at, to feed, to help, even if you got a dog or a cat or a goldfish to feed, to worry about, and to take care of, you live longer, they say. If a cat or dog's presence can make you live longer, just think about what God's presence will do. I'm not having to go through this storm by myself. Don't allow the presence of the storm to make you doubt the presence of God. And that's what'll happen if you're not careful. You'll think because you got a storm, that both of them can't be around at the same time, but they can. In the storm, what Paul was riding on, depending on, and protected by, started coming apart. Don't try to preserve the temporary. Sometimes God just gives us things for a season. God promised to get you there, but he didn't say how. Just because what God gave you came apart doesn't mean you have to come apart. The job you thought you would retire on, sometimes it comes apart. A lot of us have lost things in the storm, stuff, and we've lost friends in the storm. If it was meant to stay, it wouldn't leave. The destruction of the boat may indicate and announce that you haven't arrived at your destination. Rebuke that feeling in spirit of giving up. If I wasn't ready for it, God wouldn't allow it. Many of our problems is that we're in love with what we had. You can't be saved by what was. You can only be saved by what is. It's not what it used to be, but it's still enough for me to make it on, like Paul's ship, even the boards and the broken pieces of the ship and the boards. You can make it on broken pieces. Paul did. People today don't know how to make it on anything unless they got everything. Stop focusing on what you lost and start living with what you got left. Everything does not come to stay. Every friend is not going to be a lifelong friend. Some's there just for a season. Don't stand and cry over the funeral of what used to be. All that left me couldn't stay, and all that stayed couldn't leave. I'm going to be all right. I don't have to have everything. It may just be a piece of bread with no butter, but I don't have to have any jelly to be happy. Don't be moved by emotions when you're exhausted. Learn that when you're tired, you can't trust exhausted emotions. I believe I'm talking to somebody right now. I don't know who it is, but may this help you. When your emotions are exhausted, they'll send you false signals. They could make you lash out at people who are really trying to help you. You're exhausted or frustrated. It's like trying to fly a plane without trusting the dials. In other words, you'll feel like you're going to crash when you're safe. If I ever get past this cancer, I'm going to celebrate. No, I'm going to celebrate right now if we never make it past the cancer. You'll let those things wear the pep out of your step and the smile off your face if you let it. What happens when you get there and it doesn't feel like you got there? What happens when success doesn't feel like success? If you could have told that little boy or little girl that was in you that you were going to be successful, then why aren't you happy? You prayed to have a husband and wife or a child. Why aren't you happy? What do you do when survival does not feel successful? And the mission is completed, but you do not celebrate. You're closer now than you've ever been in your life. If you want to get someone's anointing, you got to suffer like they've suffered and cry like they've cried and do it without like they did. Hold on, hold on, hold on. You didn't come through what you come through to die in 2 foot of water. Don't drown in 2 foot of water. Paul told them that to get aboard or a piece of the ship, they all escaped safely to land. I hope this is helping somebody this morning. I really feel like it is. And if it is, I wouldn't mind having some feedback. But if it doesn't, then you've been helped. If you don't give me feedback and it helped you, I'm so glad, because that's why I'm making these. May God bless you till next time.